for me was created in the 90s as a request by the Florida Department of Education to Pasco County School District. And a longtime friend of mine, Elizabeth Cooper, who's been retired for many, many years, she was the author, and so was, I forget Frank's last name. And what they did was they correlated the original Standing Up for Me with the Choice Maker curriculum out of the University of Colorado. So Donna took that and created this new version, Standing Up for Me Plus, at the high school level. And what's cool about it, it has some bell ringer activities, but we're not going to give you the curriculum today. This is more of a commercial for you to reach out to your regional transition representative to do this training with you so you can get access to the curriculum. Did I hit it in the head? Did I get it right? Oh my gosh, people keep coming in.
You're good.
So are we on the next slide?
Yep. Well, I'll go there. There we go.
So we're going to talk to you a little bit why self-determination is important and why you should teach self-determination. And basically, if you've been paying attention to this conference, I think the two big keynotes talked about how it was important to them. Chris had to speak up for himself and had to believe in himself, as did Delana. So it's critical that we work with students in teaching them those skills, teaching students those skills to advocate for themselves, to lead those self-determined lives. So self-determination is research-based. Students that advocate for themselves, that speak up for themselves, that know what they want, that can set those goals, will be more successful when it comes to post-school outcomes. It's a predictor. It's a research-based predictor of successful post-school outcomes. Next slide.
Oops, did I skip one? No, sorry.
So self-determination is knowing and believing in yourself, knowing what you want in terms of your future to be and how to make those plans to achieve those future goals, knowing what supports you need to take control of your life. Self-determination refers to the ability and the right for you to make choices and direct your own life. So I loved what Delana did this morning to talk about having your students look in a mirror and having them kind of talk to themselves in terms of who do you want to be? What do you want to do when you leave high school? And I really, really like that mirror idea. Next slide. So the small group, are we going to do that? I think we can.
So I think this one is me. And so we're actually not going to do the activity just right now, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. So this presentation that we're giving is just kind of it's a pared down version of the training. And this activity would be a discussion activity that we break up into small groups. But there are a couple questions, or 3 questions here. What impact did self-determination skills have on students' post-school outcomes? And that's in relationship to this article by, what's his first name? Jim Martin. And he's the guy who is at the Zero Center in Oklahoma. You guys might be familiar with the Zero Center. If you aren't, that's they have a lot of stuff for self-determination on their site at the Zero with a Z, Zero Center. And so he wrote this article, so you can click on this link and go to it. And in his article, he just talks a lot about how students' post-school outcomes for students who had self-determination training were much better than students who hadn't had it. And it also, self-determination training highly impacted the way students participated in their IEPs. And so I just would encourage you to go back and read this article. There are a few other things from this article that came up, and that is that students and team members, they reported that the students know what to do, they understand what was said, and they know the reasons for the meeting but they talked less than any other IEP team member. And the parents and the special ed teachers talked more than students did. About the students' own interests, the parents and special ed teachers talked more. And students felt less comfortable sharing their thoughts. And students reported the lowest level of satisfaction about their IEP meetings among all of the team members. And so I just wanted to show you, this breaks it down and shows you, now it does make sense, ESE personnel, I mean, there are things to say. So this isn't saying ESE personnel shouldn't say anything, but it is hard when you say that IEPs are about the student and that they only participated 3% in this study. Now this study what took place in the early 2000s. So hopefully that number has changed and that there's more student participation. But that's something to think about. And having self-determination definitely helps to get students to participate more in their IEP team meetings. Okay, Freddie, I think this is you.
So self-determination is critical for students in terms of their participation in their IEP, but it's also a state statute. So in state statute, at age 14, we need to begin assessing, does the student need instruction in terms of self-determination, self-advocacy skills? So if you're a peer school district in terms of your IEP program, that's one of the questions. If you check the box, yes, the student does need instruction, you're going to have to describe how you're going to provide that instruction to the student. If you check no, you better, in the present level when you're describing, that you better describe a student that's able to advocate for him or herself in terms of the IEP meeting, is able to ask and remind general education teachers that they have an IEP, they might have extended time, et cetera, et cetera. So it's required by statute as well. And it's important in order to for a student to learn to make those choices. A person needs to be given choices and have choices in order to make those decisions that impact your future. So if you're never given the opportunity to make choices and make decisions and set goals, then how are you going to have a successful future? Next slide. So why teach it? There are lots and lots of student benefits. So students with disabilities who exercise self-determination reap the following benefits: higher degree of academic achievement and engagement, active involvement in transition planning, higher degree of post-secondary activity involvement, higher quality of life in adulthood. So if you looked at Delana, you would know that she received some very, very good self-determination and self-advocacy instruction, because she even created her own advocacy group at the college level for students with disabilities. So it's very, very important. It's so beneficial to students, and it will help them with their future. And I'm gonna use me for an example too. I have a titanium plate in my neck. I'm fused from C4 to C6. So when I go apply for a job and it requires me to both work on a computer and answer the phone at the same time, I can get excruciating migraines because of the plate in my neck. So is it wrong for me to go to my employer and say, can you purchase me a headset so I can work on the computer and answer the phone at the same time? No, it's not. I'm advocating for myself. I'm using those self-advocacy skills. And under the Americans with Disabilities Act, the employer should be providing me with a headset so that I can perform my job functions. And teaching students those skills is so very important. So if they have those skills, they can speak up during the IEP meeting and express what their needs are, express what they want to do in the future. Next slide. So why teach those skills? So Mitchell says, no one should make choices and decisions without the person with a disability being involved. People should be allowed to hear every option, and they are entitled to their own opinion. Planning and having an idea of what you want to be is important for self-determination. And Mia says it takes a lot of work to be self-determined in whatever you are doing, especially if you're living on your own or learning to live an independent life. It's a lot of work and it can be a lot of fun. It's good to have your eyes and ears open around other people, parents, sisters, friends that love you the most. So these are some perspectives. students flourish when they actively participate in their IEP meeting, when they set those goals. And what's so cool about this curriculum, you'll see some bell ringer activities on goal setting. There's various activities in there that this curriculum will, you will thoroughly enjoy this curriculum, along with the old, some of the old Standing Up For Me. It's an additional resource that you can use to provide that instruction.
So now we're going to do like a bird's eye view of the curriculum, and I'm going to show you some of the pieces. So let's see. So I'm just going to show you here. Let's see.
I'm glad you're doing that. Yes.
Okay. So this is the full curriculum right here. And so there is a table of contents. Yay. And then it starts with Unit 1. And one of the features that begins right off of the bat in Unit 1 is well, one thing that's different about this curriculum is it has a lot of the same topics, but it just includes a lot of different resources. There's different activities, there are different video clips. So it's updated a little bit in that way. And then there's a portfolio that's added, and the portfolio gets taught to the student right off the bat, because there will be artifacts that are all throughout the curriculum, and they're marked by this little icon. So, if an activity has this little icon, it's supposed to go into the portfolio. And there's a checklist. And so this shows from Unit 1, what are the items that should go into the portfolio? And then throughout the curriculum, these items are included. They're not items that you have to create. They're items that are included. And I'm sorry, I'm scrolling so fast. And so I just want to scroll a little bit here and let you see some of the stuff that they'll be doing. And like one thing that we got permission to do was to use the Me scale. And so that's a really helpful thing for students to grow in their self-awareness. And there's also a Me scale for other people to fill out as an added activity. And there are like collages that students make and all kinds of activities that go on in there. Another piece of the curriculum is the student materials. And so this just has like everything that the students need. So that has like their portfolio checklist. It has all the activities that they put into their portfolio. And there's the U scale. That's what other family members or close friends or teachers can fill out. It's sometimes helpful for self-awareness also to hear someone else's perspective. And this just shows like some of the graphics that are created and just the activity. So hopefully it's all lined up and there's not a lot of work that the teacher has to do in creating extra activities. One thing I also wanted to mention about the portfolio is, and this was related to the student participation in the IEP, is I think it would be especially awesome if the student made a portfolio and like if it was able to be kept in like a notebook, then they could take that notebook with them. It has a lot of the student assessments that were in the old SUFM. They've just been tweaked a little bit. And so anytime you're discussing all of those questions that have to do with the students' interests and preferences and needs, they would have a notebook there that would have all this information. So if they just like weren't really just able to like start bringing up all that information on their own, they could easily turn to an assessment that they took and say, oh, well, these are some of the jobs I identified in this assessment that I did. And oh, here's some of the job settings I'm most interested in. I'd rather work outside, or I'd rather do this, or, you know, and so it's really, I think it would be a really helpful tool. And then the curriculum has 3 units, and each unit has different sections, a different number of sections. Unit 3, that's all about participating in and leading the IEP team meeting, is just has 1 section. It's just all focused on that. And then we talked about how the portfolio is the common thread that kind of weaves throughout all of the units. So it's always there, and it's always this document that you're, or this resource that you're adding to and building throughout all of the units. Okay, Freddie, this is you.
I was going to ask you to do that one.
Okay, I'll do these. This just shows the sections that are in the first unit. So there's the finding out about me. This is all about self-awareness and my disability, and then about choice making, decision making, and problem solving.
Can we give them a peek from the curriculum side of it instead of doing the slides, I wonder, or is that hard to do?
Yeah, no, it's not hard to do. I just, hang on one second.
So Lynn, Donna, we have a question in the chat room. Is there a parent from Lynn? Is there a parent component? And how is this shared with the parents so they are involved?
So like, for example, with the me scale, it invites students to, I mean, ideally, it would be nice if a student could take home the me scale and share it. But I recommend in the curriculum that you make a copy of it so they can take it home and share it, and you can still have a copy for the student's notebook. And then there's also the U scale. So this would go home and parents would fill that out, and it would come back and also be a part of the portfolio. So several, and it does, not all the activities, but several of the activities do involve the parents either seeing or completing something similar. Also, I'm glad you asked a question, because when I was showing this, the student stuff, I wanted to say that one thing that we would like to do, and then we've had this on our list but just haven't been able to get to it, is we would like to make these fillable PDFs instead of that, so that you don't have to print them and rely on a printed copy. So so we want to, that's something we want to do. I did hear from someone in Region 1 who wrote to Tracy, and Tracy sent it to me, and they're using an app, and it's not called Snapchat, but it's called Snap something. I'm sorry, I'm showing my lack of technology chops here, but they're using an app that turns all of, they turned their student activities into fillable PDFs with this app. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. If any of you know what it is, please feel free. It would be super great if they happen to be on this call. But anyway, so yeah, so there.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to show them some of the lessons and the units, in addition to maybe a bell ringer activity.
Okay, let's see. Let's go back
Donna,
here.
Donna, that someone chimed in, Billy McDonald, and said that is Snap Type Pro.
Woohoo! Thank you, Billy McDonald. So if we don't get to it before you get to it, you can do that. So here, let me scroll. I'm sorry I have to scroll. That's kind of hard to watch somebody scroll. So I'm just going to sort of randomly stop here. So this lesson is called My Improvement Plan, and all of this curriculum is adapted from the previous Standing Up for Me, which some of this is from the Me curriculum, and there's some from I'm Determined, So like, for example, so this, it has all the steps here. We're going to talk about this a little later, but we'll skip it when we get to it. So each lesson has, you know, the section, the lesson number, grade level, objective, materials, and then it has all the steps. And so hopefully it's like really clear. It includes discussion questions and activities, and then it has an extension activity that's optional. And so the U scale is one of those extension activities. And then let me see if I can find one that has a bell ringer. Not every single one has a bell ringer, but so this one is from section 2, which is finding out about my disability. It's understanding I'm me, I'm not my disability. And then it has all of the steps, has links, has activities, and this activity is the more alike than different activity. And it's a fun activity. It also has a great video. I don't know if you guys have seen the more alike than different video in here on YouTube. It's really excellent. And so there are a couple of, or maybe this is it. This is the one. And then there's a bell ringer here. And basically what it says to do is use all of step 5. So this is the video that I was talking about. It's the Down syndrome. We're more alike than different. And so there are some discussion questions. So this could be a bell ringer that could go without any of, it wouldn't have to have any discussion. It could just have the video going. Or if you wanted to include discussion, you could have discussion, and you can do that as a bell ringer. So those are distributed throughout the curriculum as well. Okay. And then this is just gonna zoom through the units. So the unit 2 is on understanding my IEP. And it's like understanding how the IEP helps me, discovering what I need and want, planning for my future. And so unit 2 is the unit that has so many of the assessments in it. And because they're really learning to understand that their IEP really is about them. And it's not this thing that's just outside of them. It's really related to their lives and their plan for their lives. And so it's got a lot of good stuff in there. And then unit 3 is about participating in and leading the IEP team meeting, and which is also a really important section, because as we talked about in the beginning, students who participate and lead in their IEP tend to have better post-school outcomes, because they're learning to advocate for themselves, and they're learning how to be leaders. Okay, what time is it? This one was like I don't know if we have time to do this one or not.
I think we're going to wrap it up. Is there, what I want everyone to do is put your name, school district, job title in the chat box, and also to copy the evaluation link. But where we're going to wrap it up is towards the end of Donna's slides, and then I'm going to take you to one other section. What's the last couple of slides, Donna?
You do technically have 15 minutes left, so.
Yeah, but I didn't want to keep people very much longer, because this is more of a preview. We want you to reach out to your regional transition representative for the actual training.
But Freddie, this is a really good activity.
Can we do it? Can we do it?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we could do it. Okay. So let me make this really big, because you'll have to read this on your screen. So the thing here is I have to give you just a minute to read all of these scenarios. Normally we break up into groups, and we don't really have time to do that. But there are 3 scenarios here, and I was wondering if you could read them. They don't quite fit on one. Maybe I can make them a little bit smaller so they all fit on one. Okay. So these are teacher assessments. And so what you're pretending is that you're receiving this assessment from your principal or whoever does your evaluation. So there's scenario A and B and C. So if you could read those really quick, I'll give you a couple minutes to read those through. Okay, so if you could put into the chat box, if you were going to receive one of those scenarios as your assessment, which one would you rather receive, A, B, or C? So just type in an A, a B, or a C. Everybody wants C, yay! Nobody wants A. Somebody speak up and say why you don't want A. Just open your mic and say, be brave. Jennifer Mackler, you want an award today, so I'm going to pick on you. You open your mic and say, why don't you want scenario A?
Because they haven't met their criteria.
Well, and they also, in a way, all of these scenarios are the same because this basically says, does not meet criteria in more than one area. Well, here it says meets criteria in all areas except for 2. So it's really saying the same thing, but it's saying it in a much different way.
In a negative tone.
Yes. And then can anybody tell me like how scenario C, besides that positive spin, what else is more positive about scenario C? Can someone open their mic and tell me that?
The individual has buy-in on their improvements.
Yes.
Evaluation.
Woohoo. Somebody else?
They get to help choose their mentor teacher.
Exactly. And yeah, they get buy-in, they get to help choose their mentor teacher. It's not just being they're assigned to someone. You know, if I was assigned to a mentor teacher and I didn't know them well, or maybe I just didn't get along with them, that would be such a bummer. But if I needed a mentor teacher and I got to pick them, that'd be kind of cool. So the point of that activity is to say, this is how students feel in their IEP meetings. So they come into these meetings and sometimes they can feel very negative because we do have to focus on students' needs and we want to focus on their strengths too, but there's a way to focus on needs and give buy-in and give input and say so. And so I just wanted to give you that little teacher assessment scenario just to kind of remind you of how a student might be feeling during their IEP team meeting.
So
Thank you.
imagine if we changed the way we did our IEPs. Imagine if the student was inviting everybody to the IEP was actually doing the invites and was actually speaking up in the meeting. And we actually asked the student what they want to do, what they need assistance and supports with, versus constantly talking about, well, you're not doing well in this and you're not doing well in that. And I know we have to do that, but if we turn the IEP more into a celebration, wouldn't our parents, our family members more likely show up for those IEP meetings? Because I know that's a big problem too, is getting parents to attend, because all throughout their children's lives, they've heard all the negative in the IEP meeting. And I know because of legal requirements, we have to focus on some of those challenges. But if we made it into more of a celebration and successes and say, they still need to do work in this area, we still need to focus in this area, but let's celebrate what they've done in terms of the IEP and let the student speak up in terms of him or herself. There's the outline of the lessons. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so so this is just showing what we talked about before. I was saying we would talk about it later and I'd skip this. This just shows what's in every lesson. And then this shows what's in some of the lessons. So some of the lessons have an extension activity, some have a bell ringer and or general education use, and then some of them have a portfolio artifact that are going to be included. And I won't take you through this sample lesson. We don't have time. I knew we wouldn't have time to do this because this takes about 20 minutes or so to go through it. But I did want to show you this and just say this is also an example of how, pursuit of happiness. Did you guys see this movie? If you didn't see this movie, it's a great movie. So in this in this stage where we're still staying home quite a bit, go home and rent this movie. It's so encouraging. Or inspire. I don't know if it's encouraging, but it is inspiring. But I did just want to show you that we're trying to use activities that are, involving more popular culture things and hopefully appealing to the interests of the students as much as we can. And then, so here we are. Now we're here at the end. Now, Freddie, you wanted to do something else though, right? Before we do questions, you had another thing?
Yeah, can I share my screen real quick?
Yes, you can. Let me see if, yeah, you're already a co-host, so.
Where'd it go? No. There it is. Yeah, you see these kiddos here? So years ago, there was a school district I worked with, and they decided they were going to train and have every teacher K through 12, including gen ed teachers, trained in standing up for me and the curriculum standing up for me. And this is the original curriculum. So we're talking, I've been with Project 10 now 12 years. So we're talking 10 years, maybe even 11 years ago. So imagine if we started very, very young, how much more advanced these young people will be when they hit high school. So what they did, very creative things in this particular school. The young man right here with the train is a student with autism, and he's very much fascinated with trains and wants to be a train conductor. So they created out of construction paper a train, and these are things that keep me on track. These are things that derail me. I just thought it was very creative. The IEP, we have to do those legal requirement stuff, but you can talk about the strengths and the challenges, and you can have the students talk about their strengths and challenges. Like Bronson here, for instance, what I like to do, he likes helicopters and riding his bike. What I don't like to do, he doesn't like doing his chores and cleaning his room. He hates taking out the trash. I need more help with or practice with reading, if you can see that. I know it's small, but just imagine if we had you standing up for me at a very, very young age, then when the students hit high school, how much more self-determined and how more easily they can advocate for themselves. And then they can easily get jobs in any setting and give people tours of the jobs they have in any setting because they have those skills. So standing up for me, the original, and standing up for me plus increases those skills, but I would encourage you to to have your school district start younger and younger and younger with students. And Donna talked about several resources, the Zara Center, imdetermined.org. There's so many resources out there. There's all self-advocacy online. So if you get with your Project 10 regional transition rep, they can share some of those resources with you. What our struggle is as a project is we have to keep track who attends our trainings. So that's why I ask for all the information in the chat box. I hate asking people that. And that's why I'm also asking you to go to the link to do the evaluation. I know this was a quick, we only had 45 minutes. So Donna, one of the questions in the chat box is how long this training takes.
It takes probably close to 2 hours. Freddie and I have done it together a couple of times. And I think one time we did it in close to an hour and a half, but really 2 hours is best to give you a really good induction into all of it. I also wanted to let you know that there is a middle school. If you're familiar with the old Standing Up For Me, or I shouldn't say old, the previous Standing Up For Me, it had an element, a primary, an elementary, a middle school, and a high school. And I think our new version is going to have elementary, middle, and high. And so right now I'm working with one of the Finn folks is consulting with me, Kimberly Riley. And so we're working on the middle school curriculum now. And then after we finish the middle school curriculum, we will start on the elementary school curriculum. But the people who are piloting the Standing Up For Me curriculum now are going to be getting a survey to complete at the end of this semester. And basically what we want is your feedback so that you can tell us, you know, what about the curriculum worked for you and what didn't work for you. And so we want to do one final editing on it based on the information that you all share. And then it will be, you know, it's actually anybody can pilot it. So it's the pilot version is open to anybody who wants to pilot it really, but we didn't want to just try to get everybody piloting it because we want the most of you to end up with the final curriculum and not with a curriculum that still has another step of improvements to go. So, so that's coming, the finalized version of the high school. The middle school version is in process right now, and then the elementary version is coming up. So, and if you want to use it in the elementary and the middle school, the previous Standing Up For Me curriculum is still available for use in those areas. Freddie, do you have anything else to add?
I know this was really, really quick. So if you did put your information in the chat box, I'll send you some free goodies, but I really want you all to reach out to your regional transition representative. I see some of my region on here. So just reach out to me. And like Donna said, we've done it in an hour and a half. We might be able to do it in an hour and 15 minutes so that you can have access to the curriculum. We're not allowed to release it until you've had the actual training. But if you put your information in the chat box, if you want to quickly put your email in the chat box so I can send you some of the video links in terms of the resources I have listed here. Including the Zara Center and imdetermined.org, some good resources for you. I know this was quick, it was, but it was just to give you an overview, a taste of what self-determination, self-advocacy is all about, especially the Standing Up For Me plus curriculum. I like the bell, my favorite is the bell ringer activities. And I'm hearing that a lot from teachers because of time crunches. And let's say I'm an English teacher or a biology teacher or an algebra teacher. How can I do a quick goal setting bell ringer activity? So there might be a goal setting bell ringer activity in there.
Freddie, I just thought of one more thing that I wanted to share with you all is that we also have a self-determination, self-advocacy guide that's coming out soon. Franklin Coker from Region 3 has been partnering with me on that. And it's basically about, it's aimed at ESE personnel, but it's also aimed at general ed classroom teachers. And the idea behind it is that self-determination is for all students. And the truth is that self-determination is for all people. And even as I go through, as I'm writing curriculum and learning more things, I think, man, I need to do this better, and I mean, it's really an area in which all of us need to be continuing to grow. And so that's what this new guide is going to be about. It's going to have a broader perspective. It is going to share some techniques. It's going to talk about Franklin is really big on, for anybody who's in his region, and all the RTRs are really, they're just so big on making sure that this answers the questions that transition personnel have. And so he's like, we have to answer for them how they decide if they should recommend that a student needs self-determination when they're doing the IEPs. And if they decide that, we need to help them know what their options are. How can they give them self-determination instruction and document that in the IEP? And so it has a lot of those kinds of materials in there for those purposes. So that's going to be coming out soon. So it'll probably be within the next, I would say, hopefully like 2 to 3 weeks.
We're going to stay on for a few more minutes because I want you all to click on that link to do that Project 10 evaluation. We're required to do that for the Florida Department of Education. I hate to ask you all to do that because you're doing one for DCDT too. And I'm going to play some music in the background that I think really has a lot to do with self-determination and self-advocacy. This particular song, I play it every time I do the training. So click on that link so you have the opportunity to complete the evaluation form. And I'm sure you've seen this video. Yep, there's gonna be a commercial. Come on. I'm losing people too. Lynn, I see your daughter in the background. All right. I love that song. I think we should teach kids to say what they want to say, teach them how to speak up for themselves.
As soon as she heard it, she came running in.
Say what you want to say, be heard, and she speaks up for herself, right? Awesome. All right, I hope this was helpful, guys. I'm sorry it was so short, but that's what we work with is in the time frame. But if I got your email address, or if you want to email you, I can send some video links. I've got all kinds of cool video links. So if you all completed the evaluations, awesome. You all have a great evening. Donna, anything else, or is that it?
That's all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Donna and Freddie, and hope to see you guys bright and early at 8:30 in the morning for our next day of session.
Absolutely.
No margaritas tonight.
Maybe one.
The president's reception.